We appreciate everybody being here tonight. Sincerely appreciate our staff being here tonight as well. We got a lot of county employees in the room, and they're here because they're just as much engaged and excited about what we're doing with solid waste as you folks are tonight. So we hope tonight's workshop is going to be one of just some exciting news about what we do and kind of bring the community into the focus of what we do. A lot of people just think, it's a dump. No, it's not a dump. It's a modern solid waste facility and a daily, never-ending construction site and daily science project. So we're here to kind of we're here to talk trash. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. So we hope we have a good time with us. We have some special guests here tonight. If you don't mind putting your cell phones on silence just for the benefit of PAC 14, because this is going to be taped and placed up there for the rest of the public that aren't here this evening. A couple other housekeeping items. Obviously, the restrooms are down the hall on the right. Ladies is closest. Men are a little bit farther towards. The closest fire exit is out this door and straight out the hallway out to the rear parking lot. So without further ado, I welcome everybody to the Solid Waste Division Spring Workshop, and I wanted to introduce first and foremost, by the way, my name is Adam Corey. I'm the Executive Director of Environmental Services and Acting Landfill Superintendent right now. And I want to introduce our Deputy Director of Public Works, Mr. Mike Svaby, and he's going to bring tonight's speakers for introduction.
Good evening, everybody. Mike Swaby, Deputy Director of Public Works, and I'm here tonight with my team. Most of the active people at Solid Waste, other than the actual people on the Hill, are here tonight. We're also here with our partners from EA Engineering, Science, and Technology and WAGA Energy. Sometimes speaking to a group of people isn't easy, but it's easy tonight, and it's almost enviable when you have something fun and exciting to say. And I believe that we have that for you tonight. We're here to report some successes and some great plans for the future. It's the privilege of our team to come out and share these things with you because it's the product of our hard work for the last more like 3/4 of a year or a year even. We step over each other to tell people something, and that's that 6948 brick kiln is not a dump. Adam beat me to the punch, but we repeat that often. It's a modern, active community landfill, and I say community because everyone in the Wicomico County contributes to it, and how we operate it affects everyone in the community. A successful day in the landfill comes when the team engages in the tried and true practices that we know work well, and just like in any other job, when incidents happen, we race to learn from them and reset policy so we can get closer every day to fashioning the best landfill in the state of Maryland. That's our goal. A perfect landfill would be attained if all activities were planned and we had a plan for all possible outcomes. In the soul searching we've done about how to become the best landfill in the state, one major element kind of jumps out at us, and it's communicating with the public. So that's why we're doing a venue like tonight, and we're going to be doing many more. So tonight's an example of us reaching out to you, telling you what's going on, and hopefully collecting some feedback back from you. Please come back when we do this again. Tell your friends, bring them back as well. This is your landfill, and we want to hear from you. I'm going to be sharing some updates and reports of some of the exciting things we're doing at Newland Park Landfill. Some are currently happening and some are planned for the future. Some presenters here tonight from the landfill: Jessica Hunter, Supervisor of Accounting; Jennifer Albero, Recycling Coordinator; from EA Engineering, Science, and Technology, Professional Engineer and Board Certified Environmental Engineer Darrell Kohler; from WAGA Energy, Founder and U.S. CEO, Mr. Ganel Prince; WAGA Project Engineer, Jeffrey Feeler. You've already met Adam, and there are some additional officials I would like to recognize in the room. First of all, Council President John Cannon up front, Council Vice President Jeff Merritt, and Councilman James Wynn also. I'd also like to take the pleasure to introduce the newly confirmed Director of Public Works, Mr. Mustafa Kilickerslan. Without further ado, I will turn the show over to Adam.
Thank you for those introductions, Mike. That was wonderful. And truly, this is what we're here for tonight, is just to kind of give you the show that we've been planning. So a couple quick topical items that I wanted to get through are where we stand right now with some of our bigger achievements. We came to council not that long ago with our 10-year comprehensive solid waste management plan. This is a requirement that keeps us on track for our goals. It's also required by the state of Maryland to be submitted. Happy to report that this finalized draft from our office was submitted to the Maryland Department of the Environment last week. We'll be waiting for we appreciate the council's input, the public's input, and then we're going to be waiting for the Maryland Department of the Environment to send that back to us with a big stamp of a gold star right on the front of it. That's what I want to see. So just to let you know what the purpose of a 10-year solid waste management plan is, the plan represents the comprehensive planning for the future. Obviously, it's for 25 through 34. And of course, it's in accordance with the Code of Maryland regulations. And we have to have all sorts of stuff for it, including public hearing and be presented and approved by Wycomico County, which I just spoke about having already been done. We want to make sure that we demonstrate not only to the state, but to ourselves, to our partners, to our community, that we have a plan moving forward for success. And the reason I picked this slide to be first tonight is I want to make sure that you pick up on this topic as we go through the entire presentation. This is all about the successes at Newland Park that are coming on board and are going to take us into the future for a great and bright future for that landfill. So some of the goals and objectives, if you were here in November we're in November in this room and then again in January, if you were here for that, and I know some of you folks were, the 10-year plan talked about some goals and objectives with the landfill. So make sure we're providing adequate management of all disposal of all wastes. Want to make sure that anything generated within Wycomico County is being taken care of efficiently and obviously in an environmentally sound manner. I tell people all the time, most of the reasons why we created environmental law, environmental regulations, and policies in the United States of America was for one big reason. Does anybody know what that reason was? It was protection of public health first. And that's what it's about. The environment is a bonus that we get to protect and be good stewards of, but it came from the protection of public health. So if you don't have clean drinking water, you don't have clean air to breathe, and there's stuff that you don't want to touch running in the gutters, it's not good for society. So in the way we develop our waste disposal systems, we want to make sure we're also in conformance in accordance with the comprehensive plan of the county overall. Targeted for materials for recycling, obviously how we take in our waste oil, antifreeze, all sorts of things that we take across our scales, the community outreach, and we want to make sure that we're striving to meet or exceed our goals of our minimum diversion of recyclable materials for the state, which is 20%. You'll see later on, but it's one of the feathers in our cap, and my hat's off to Jennifer Albero and the recycling coordinators, including Mr. Steve Chamberlain, who have most recently as our MRA being above 52%. For the state. Mike said it earlier, we want to be the best landfill in the state of Maryland. That's our goal. So we will also want to make sure we're providing adequate opportunities for active public participation, and that's what we're doing. I see one of our commercial waste haulers in the room tonight. Anybody else besides Seagull? So I think you can share with the group as well that we've been reaching out to our solid waste family out there of all of our commercial waste haulers to make sure that you're engaged in the process as well. We want to continue to do that moving forward. So we need to talk about a little thing called money. So I'm going to ask Ms. Jessica Hunter, who is the supervisor of accounting, to come up here and take some of the next round.
You got it? All right. Good evening. Glad you guys could come out tonight. Everybody likes to talk about money. So at the landfill, solid waste is a enterprise fund. It's similar to a private business. We are not funded by taxpayers. We generate our own revenue, tipping fees, permits. That's how we pay our personnel payroll, our operating, our capital expenses, anything like that. We have to generate revenue to pay for our equipment, which you'll see it in the next slide. It's very expensive. So, does anybody know how much it cost in 1 year to operate the solid waste division? Any guesses?
5 million.
Anybody else?
Anybody?
5 million over here. 5 million going once, going twice. Anybody? 18. All right, we got 18. We got 5. We got 18.
$9 million. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. A lot. That $9 million, as I said, pays for our equipment. So these two pieces of equipment that's on this slide, that's our grinder. We recently just purchased it. It was almost $1 million. It's very vital to our brush pile. We grind the brush that comes in from our citizens. It's very vital for our landfill. We use it to make a pathway on our landfill as a landing strip for our commercial haulers to come in. That way, you know, when the weather does permit, you don't get stuck or anything. So that's a very vital piece of solid waste right now. Our next big purchase, and I hope our budget passes, is a new CAT compactor. The cost is $1.7 million. That compacts our trash on the landfill. Is a very, 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 very important piece of equipment right now. Adam?
Yep, sure. So one of the things we wanted to drive home with some of these slides here is it costs a lot to make a good landfill. And this is part of the process too for the public to be engaged in, because obviously what we take in across our scales is what we're able to utilize to make sure that we're making that landfill great. So arguably a compactor is the most important piece of equipment on the landfill. When we talk about landfills and we talk about compactors, it's all about maintaining space. If you don't properly get compaction rates on that material, you effectively are filling up a bucket faster than you should. If you imagine taking your kid's homework and loosely crumpling it up and putting it in a 5-gallon bucket, it wouldn't be too long before a whole bunch of loose softball-sized pieces of paper would fill that bucket up. But if you took every one of those pieces of paper and crushed them down as small as you can get them, maybe even fold them into origami, you're going to fit them in there even tighter. That's the goal of the compactor. But again, these things are not cheap. It's some of the most expensive equipment out there. And a landfill is effectively, other than heavy mining operations, probably the hardest working environment for any large piece of machinery. Does anybody have a guess on what the typical lifespan is for a major piece of equipment like a bulldozer or compactor on the landfill? About take any guesses? Just about 5 to 7 years before you start to have major mechanical issues. Our 4-wheel compactor from CAT right now, our 836K, has 20,000 hours on it. That is like, it's going to go into the world record, Guinness Book of World Record for, you're going to either have to completely redo it at the tune of, I think we got bids of $875, something like that.
Yeah, and it's almost 11 years.
So it's crazy. So we do the best we can to keep it working, but again, it's just one of those things that it takes money to make money. And multiply that by the fact that we've got 77 pieces of equipment on the landfill, ranging from a forklift all the way up to the largest pieces that we have. And none of that would matter without these people to run them. I've got some of our best and most professionally skilled equipment operators in the room tonight. Without those people on staff, properly trained and in the proper piece of equipment, we can't do the job that we need to do for the citizens. So with 77 pieces of equipment, you can imagine the cost range all over the board. Our employees, full and part-time. And then again, a couple of lesser knowns that the solid waste division, we don't just take care of the landfill. We assist various departments in projects across the county, including snow removal when roads needs the assistance. Obviously, if there's any major natural disasters or anything like that, like hurricanes, we're going to get involved. We have clearing of land and disposal of abandoned structures in other places. We've even got sometimes people call and say, hey, there's a bunch of derelict boats sitting out by the marina. Can you guys come get them? I guess we will. It's one of those things. So I want to talk a little bit about tonnages. When you think about where we are as a society, as a culture, as a community, what do you see with these slides? And of course, this only goes back to 2022, that increase. Now, there is a pretty significant disparity of increase between 23 and 24. Can't really narrow down exactly why, other than the fact that we did have a few structures that had to be removed, like Cove Road that we worked with Park and Rec on. And just, it's one of those things. COVID was a weird time too. So you just never can tell what your waste stream is going to be. But I can tell you this, almost full proof that it is going to continue to increase. So we have to get very, very creative on how we divert. Now, again, later on, we're going to talk with Miss Jennifer Albero. She's going to come up and talk a little bit about, actually here pretty soon, I think in the next couple of slides, about recycling, about diversion, about composting, about keeping stuff out of the landfill that doesn't belong there. But a lot of what that takes is community outreach and education. You know, we've had a lot of conversations recently about litter and people, you know, having bad habits of throwing out the side of the truck. Or how about people that just don't realize what they can do with the common products that are coming into their home for reuse, reduction, and then obviously making sure it's going to the right place. So as we move forward a little bit further, I want to talk about the bright future ahead and how we're going to get there. And again, this is pretty broad strokes topical stuff, but this is what we need to talk about. We want to make sure we continue to improve our community and commercial hauler outreach and engagement. We also want to engage with the council more frequently with work sessions. We want to make sure we strive for operational excellence, and I mean that when I say it. That landfill, just to give you a little bit of background information from me, I spent 20 years with Maryland Department of the Environment. I served the state and the citizens of the state from things from petroleum storage, hazardous materials, on-site sewage disposal, landfill oversight, wetlands, all kinds of crazy stuff. Great stuff. And I feel like those things prepared me to come to this county where I was born and raised to help us get where we need to be. And I take it as a personal pride and passion to walk into that building every day and make that place excellent. And we have effectively made the culture there to make it excellent. Those 58 plus employees that we have, they're living that every day when they're up there on that hill. One of the things we need to make sure that we do is recruit and retain. Now, we did have this on our website and on the Facebook thing. We are, quote unquote, hosting a little impromptu job fair tonight. If there is anyone interested in employment, we do have some open positions. New proposed changes. Now, I'm going to get these two out of the way because these are necessary and they are going to be coming this year. One of them is an increase to tipping fees. Obviously, as we talked about the cost of operating a landfill before, it's one of those things that's going to come. Obviously, we've talked about this as a community before. The administration and the council have spoken about it before. We've held off, but we're getting to the point now where we know we got to start moving forward. And that's one of the things you'll see when Mr. Darrell comes up to talk about the next steps with Cell 7, then eventually horizontal expansion. Also, brush pile. How many people in the room use our brush pile as a resident on a regular basis? Right. It's great. And we want to keep that free for our residences. But obviously, it's kind of one of these things that we almost operate at a loss. But we saw here this year when I came on board, and I've only been here for just a little bit over 6 months. Once it got to daylight savings time switch, the brush pile is like barren. From 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., there's a man sitting in a running machine, and not many people are coming in. So starting this year, we're going to modify our schedule of our brush pile. Not a big deal. Doesn't really affect anything operationally too much, but we just want to make sure the public's aware. And before we actually do it, this is way in advance. We'll talk about this before we get to November 2025. All right, and I'm going to invite Ms. Jennifer Albero to come up. She's going to talk to you about recycling and then some other pretty cool things that are going on in our area when it comes to materials. Do you want to advance your slides?
Yeah.
Right there.
You can do the left one?
Right
Or
one,
one?
right
Okay.
one.
All right. Okay, so good evening. This is just a slide that gives you a general idea of what we're recycling in the county and how much. As you can see, the big blue areas are brush. That's how much brush actually comes in. It's that is our biggest diversion, is with just the brush. And of course, the little green sliver is cardboard. That's another one that's a large, comes in large quantity. It comes in clean. We're able to get it baled and sorted and sent out. We sent 10 loads out this past fall, along with several loads of paper, which also comes in very clean. Scrap metal is the light blue. We have scrap metal bins at all our recycling stations, all 11 throughout the county. You can put your scrap metal in there along with electronics. And you can see, of course, the different, the other commodities besides the usual household items, which most people are used to, the plastic, aluminum, cardboard, paper, but we also, oyster shells are something that we actually, with the state of Maryland, we have a program where they come and collect them, clean them, add spat to them, put them back in the bay, and they actually help, grow more oysters, which helps our bay. And of course, on the bottom there, well, actually up on the top, you can see our diversion rate by year. So we have been in the 50% range the last couple of years. COVID had dropped quite a bit, but we're making up for that. Here we go. Okay, so in Wicomico County, we have 11 convenience centers located in faraway places, so they're as convenient as possible for local constituents. All the way down in Bivalve, we have one up in Sharptown, down in Wongo. We try to keep them as spread out as we can, and we still have the 5 recycling stations located closer to the central core of the city and some out in the east side of town. Okay, so these are the future for recycling. These are upcoming programs. EPRs are extended producer responsibility bills, and the state has been working on some new ways to make the manufacturers who are making products be responsible for the life cycle of the product. So it's not ending up in a government who's having to deal with it, or you as an individual. I mean, they are making the money off of stuff that we are recycling and not being at all responsible for it. So the new wave now is to try and get manufacturers to be responsible for the containers that they are producing. Composting will be in the county's future. There's roughly 40% of the trash that goes on the landfill is food waste. And that, of course, produces methane when it breaks down. And if we could divert that and make it into a usable, compostable product that we can sell just like we do with the mulch, it would be great for cell usage, and it would bring more money back to the county for recycling. And then, of course, another EPR that's new and upcoming is the bottle bill. It's passed its first hurdle, and we'll be moving on through the legislation to hopefully get passed, and that will help keep some of this roadside litter off the sides of the roads, because some of us old people remember in the 70s when we would go out with our containers and we'd go pick up bottles and cans on the side of the road and go back to the store, hand them in and get money and buy more sodas. So it is a great program, and it'll definitely help with our diversion rates. And then lastly, this is the most important thing that we have going on. Everybody is noticing all the roadside trash, and there is a movement that's going on thanks to Bruce Robson and Mark Engberg, who started Wicomico Clean. But it actually started years earlier with Craig Funch, who wanted to get healthier and noticing trash everywhere. He met Michelle Nelson, and the two of them started their own cleanups. Fast forward to 2 years, Jerry Benton, Nadine Cordish have been single-handedly, they actually pulled about 50 tires out of a culvert pipe that was clogging up, filling Route 13 to the point where you couldn't get up or down the road. He was able to, by himself, pull about 50 tires out of this culvert that was getting clogged. Jerry is a machine. He goes out on his own and does cleanups all the time. I never know when he's going to contact me about more. So then we move on to January of 2024 with Mark and Bruce. They caught the litter bug and they started Wicomico Clean. Last year, in 2024, they held 54 events and collected 18,000 pounds of trash, or 9 tons. That's incredible. So far, just this year, in 21 events, they have collected 8,858 pounds, or 4.43 tons of trash. That's almost half of what you all collected last year in just 2.5 months. So, and there is a small dedicated group of environmental heroes. They are the Darlene family, Robbie Chin with SU, Caleb Elliott with Marva Disposal, who was kind enough to allow us to use his dump trailer, Andrew Dooley with Siegel Disposal, Andy Blizzard with Restore the Shore, Councilman President John Cannon, Council Vice President Jeff Merritt, Councilman Josh Hastings, James Wynn, Shane Baker, Mayor Randy Taylor, Salisbury Green Team, Alan Fitzgerald, who does the city park, Pete Hutchinson and Chris Burnett that clean up the Camden area, and a group of dedicated SU PACE students who actually made a flyer. It's in the back on the ledge there, and they are trying to get. It's a survey to find out, if there's anything more we can do as far as litter and recycling, what people are interested as far as landfill and roadside litter goes. At any rate, I would like all of you people who have helped and so selflessly to stand up, because we really need to applaud you for all your hard work. Please. Great job. And I'll close with, we are going after more of these people that are illegally dumping. We have another court case coming up. So we will continue. If we find roadside trash and we can find mail or do more to catch people ahead of time, and of course get out in the public and in the schools to start educating people on how important this is and how much damage this does to all of our environment, our water, air, and what we are living in. So, next up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Exciting changes to come. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to invite Mr. Darrell Kolar of EA Engineering up here. And making sure we're getting that litter off the side of the road is extremely important, but I got to make sure it's got a place to go. I want you to pick it up, but I got to have a place for it to go. So Mr. Darrell's going to tell you about what we're doing next with Cell 7 and then horizontal expansion. You want to get your own slides?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Like Adam said, my name is Darrell Kolar. I'm with EA Engineering, Science, and Technology. And my role and working with the EA is to be an extension of the county staff from regulatory and compliance and planning. So I'll start by the couple of overarching permits. One is the refuse disposal permit, and the other is the air permit, or the Part 70 operating permit. These are both 5-year permits. The solid waste one is coming up for renewal this year, so we're going to be getting that application here probably in the next month or two. It's not a complicated application, but you got to fill out that 2-page form. Update your tonnage and stuff like that, and get that in. The Part 70, that renewal went in a bit ago, but MD's taking a little bit of time to get our new permit, but they're gracious to administratively extend the existing permit. So this is like the overarching permits, but there's so many things that go in each of these. Just under the refuse disposal permit encompasses the compliance for landfill gas and groundwater monitoring. So twice a year we have to submit a semi-annual environmental monitoring report, which includes the quarterly landfill gas monitoring and semi-annual groundwater monitoring. So we take all that data, we summarize it, do the statistical analysis and all that fun stuff, put it in a report, send it to MD. The Part 70 permit is your air compliance. So similar, there's a semi-annual air compliance report that's due in end of June and then in January. And then there's an annual greenhouse gas reporting, as well as an annual EPA report. So those are the bigger ones. There's annual tonnage report, the MRA that Jennifer's working on, and just a lot of monthly reporting as well. So anyway, that's kind of permitting, but the heart of it, what we're doing right now. So you saw those tonnages and how quickly the landfill is building up. So EA's expediting a plan to design for Cell 7, getting that through. So we're thinking about 3 to 5 months to get through design, permitting 4 to 5 months, and construction 8 to 12. I put a bit of a range in there. And those timelines, I think, are conservative. We have some established relationships with MDE. We're going to be talking to them and say, hey, please don't use the full 90 days, for our review. Let's get there ahead of time. We're not reinventing the wheel. You've seen these cell designs before. It's not a permitted new landfill. So my experience, they can turn around them quicker than 90 days. If we were talking about, which we also have to do, is the horizontal expansion, that's the timely review. I didn't put a slide on there, but once we get through and through the design, we need to start talking about, because this cell 7 is the last cell to be constructed for the current Newland Park landfill. The next phase is the horizontal expansion, which is essentially another landfill across the road, up across from Brick Realm. And that process goes through what is called a phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. The phase 1 is like a desktop study, a quick report. The phase 2 is a full hydrogeological investigation where you got to do a month or a year's worth of groundwater and groundwater gauging. And then phase 3 is a design. I believe we're on phase 3. That's good. We're pretty far along, but we got to get that wrapped up and get the design so we can get, because that new facility is going to be, we're going to need additional leachate storage, connecting with the landfill gas and so forth. So all that comes into play with, our timeline and capacity evaluation. Counties have been utilized in the last couple of years. Maryland Environmental Service, they have their own survey equipment and drone. They're very quick, very economical. So here within the next 2 weeks, they're going to do another survey using a drone. They're going to take that data, do a capacity analysis. EA is going to work closely with them. We have a great relationship with MES as well. And take that timeline based on tonnages we've received, overlap that with cell 7 and ultimate build out and stuff like that, and just get a good snapshot where we are. So that's the real goal here in the next month. They're going to take a couple weeks to get the survey complete, and then they commit within another 2-week period to get that data back to us. That was my quick dirty slide of the fun stuff on the permitting and the next phases. I get to hand it over to the really cool stuff and our friends from Waga Energy.
So, speaking about a quick and dirty slide, if anybody was at the landfill between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. on Sunday night through Monday morning, you would have had a quick and dirty slide. We had 4.5 inches of rain in that short period of time. 4.5. I got my hats off to our crew. Honestly, folks, that kind of rain is an act of God in that short period of time for our landfill, and our crew came out of it on the bright side by about 2 o'clock this afternoon. We got a little bit more catching up to do, but these things happen. Our landfill is absolutely at the mercy of the weather, no doubt. So I wanted to bring up Mr. Mike Sfaby one more time because he was instrumental in getting this relationship started, and I'm going to let him do the talking on it because this is the ending of our presentation. But we really did save the best for last. This is super exciting news, and we want to make sure the community is aware of it. So, Mr. Mike Sfaby, if you want to take it away from here, sir.
So before I do some introductions, I just want to recap on something Darrell said when he was up here. And really, Darrell is a singular element of what we do actively in planning for the future. But every one of us has a part in both of those roles. So if you can picture one person, and the slide's not up anymore, but if you picture one person balancing a plate on this finger, and it's incoming waste that we're putting on the landfill, and we're driving over the waste with a compactor and situating it and covering it, and then putting more down and covering it. So that plate is being spun on my left-hand finger. And on this finger, we know that the last cell will be filled soon. So, the last cell that we're in, we have one remaining cell in the footprint, that's cell 7. We have to plan for that. So now I have to start spinning this plate on this finger. So now I have 2 plates spinning at the same time. But really, cell 7 will give us a little bit more time. But before long, we're going to need to go through the 3 phases at the other property across the street. So we have 3 things going on at once. 2 of them are planning. And one of them, believe it or not, gets disrupted and interrupted with the reality of what happens every day. More waste comes into the landfill. That's why it's real important we have the diversion rate we have. It's really been helpful to us, and why what we're about to talk about in a little more detail is it's the science of the science. It's very exciting stuff. So Waga Energy approached us at a trade show, I'll call it, in spring. We first became acquainted with them, I think it was back in May. And we began to meet with them and learn a little bit more about what they're about. Tonight, we have the privilege of having two of their officials here, the founder and U.S. CEO of Waga Energy, Mr. Ganel Prince, and Waga project engineer, Jeffrey Filer.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the introduction. So I guess you can say from my accent, very French accent, I'm the French guy here. I'm Ganel Prince, one of the co-founders of Waga Energy. We founded that company with two other people. I'm an engineer by training, by passion as well. And I'm very happy to have a chance to introduce you to this very nice project, turning landfill gas into renewable natural gas. And with me, I have Jeff. So, Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure, yeah. Jeff Filer, I'm a project engineer with Waga Energy. I've been working for Waga for about 2 years. I have two ongoing projects, one in Iowa and one back in Pennsylvania, that are starting construction. So happy to be down here to explain to you guys what goes into building this unit, and Ganel can explain all the intricacies and the chemistry behind it. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, maybe I can start a little bit with the why we founded Waga Energy. So we're a company with a mission, and we're under a mission to fight climate change by basically taking the landfill gas and turning it into renewable natural gas. You may know that there is fugitive emissions in a landfill, or a landfill is producing biogas as well, that most of the time is burnt. But basically, by recovering that gas and being able to upgrade the gas into pure methane, we can now sell that gas and put that gas into the natural gas pipeline, right? Plus, it's a renewable natural gas, so there is an incremental value on top of the natural gas price, where basically this is where we can create value around this landfill gas to RNG projects. So I'm going to introduce a little bit who we are. So we are a French company founded 10 years ago in Grenoble in France. Now we have subsidiaries in the USA. I moved in 2019 in the USA with my family to start our US operations. We have a subsidiary in Canada, one in Spain, in Italy, and in the UK. So we are expanding, rapidly expanding, because of the fact that we have a very good technology to turn landfill gas into RNG. We are publicly listed on the Euronext stock exchange market. I will say that we're basically, our business model is to fund our project. So we have financial capabilities. We are the inventors of the Waga Box. The Waga Box is the name of that technology, turning landfill gas into renewable natural gas. We own the patents. That technology was born out of 10 years of R&D within a big French company named Air Liquide, and then 5 years within Waga. We have 30 Waga Box up and running. We own those Waga Box, so we have people operating those Waga Box on a daily basis. And we are approximately 250 persons. Back on safety, I think Adam, you said safety is really, really important. It's even more important when you deal with a gas plant. So safety is our number one concern. We're talking about gas. We're talking about pollutants. So we really want our operations to be safe. So we have the highest safety standard as possible. So now I'm going to explain a little bit about the circular economy around the Waga Box. So cities are producing a lot of wastes, and most of the time those wastes are ending into a landfill. So landfills are not anymore holes. They are complex systems, well managed, basically where all the leachate is collected and treated, and the other byproduct, which is the biogas, is collected into a network of pipelines. Most of the time it is burnt, sometimes it's producing electricity, but with a low efficiency conversion, because if you take landfill gas and you turn it into electricity, the energy conversion rate is low, around 30%. Whereas now, if you take that gas and turn it into renewable natural gas, the energy conversion rate is higher, around 90%. And this is really interesting. So a lot of waste is ending into landfills. That landfill is producing landfill gas. And with the Waga box, we are turning that landfill gas into renewable natural gas, which is a drop in fuel, meaning that it can be used everywhere natural gas is used. Transport, industry, or homes heating, or whatever usage is needed, right? And basically by fueling now back the city, there is this beneficial loop around the energy generated by the landfill. A little bit, a few words around our business model. So we're basically, our business model is what we call BOOM, build, own, operate, and maintain. And I would add as well that we are developing our project. So right now, at Wicomico County, with Mike and Adam, and the people of Wicomico County, we are developing the project. So looking at, okay, where can we interconnect our project? Where is the nearest natural gas pipeline? We are refining the CapEx investment. We are looking at the electricity cost, etc. So basically, we are developing the project right now. Then, once the project is developed and we have a final investment decision, then we can invest into the project. So we're going to use our financial capabilities to invest into a multi-million-dollar, and that we're talking about a multi-million-dollar investment for Waga. So basically, there is no cost to the county. Waga will be in full charge of the investment. Then we build the project, and then we'll be operating the project, generating a revenue from the sale of renewable natural gas, and we will be sharing a portion of that revenue back to the county because the county is delivering us biogas. So this is how we're working, and this is how we're basically developing projects. Now, the offer we developed for Wicomico County is to install a Waga box unit, a 1,000 SCFM Waga box unit. So it's approximately basically the landfill biogas flow in SCFM, standard cubic feet per minute of flow we are planning to have over the next years. It will be generating an energy of around 230,000 MMBTU per year. I mean, it's not speaking, this number does not speak by itself, but it's approximately the energy to fuel, to heat 4,300 homes, approximately. And it will offset 50,000 tons of carbon dioxide. Why is that? It's because basically by bringing renewable natural gas into the pipeline, we are displacing the same amount of fossil natural gas, right? And you know, when you burn renewable natural gas, the CO2 emitted by the combustion of renewable natural gas counts for zero, basically because it's biogenic CO2, biogenic CH4, okay? So we will offset this, so it's beneficial for the environment. Regarding the financials, we're proposing to turn a pollution right now into a source of revenue for the county by sharing the top line revenue of our P&L. Basically, we will be selling renewable natural gas and we will be sharing the top line revenue of the project. We will provide some support for the wellfield operation. So if you've been on a landfill, you may know that there is a lot of different wells collecting the biogas, right? From time to time, there is tuning needed, right, to adjust for the production, and we will provide financial support for that. So it's a zero investment for the county, and it's a 20 years partnership. So basically, we want to co-develop that project and to be part of the community because we're going to sign a 20 years agreement. You understood that a Waga box facility with a multi-million-dollar investment from our side, I mean, this kind of investment, we call it infrastructure investment, it's for the long run. So it's going to be for the next 20 years. And for the next 20 years, basically the energy from the landfill will be flowing into the local distribution pipeline. For the project community now, we're talking about two full-time equivalent person, one operator full-time on site, plus a local regional supervisor, as we are able to develop more projects in Maryland. During the construction, Jeff will talk about construction a little bit later, but we will need local companies for the civil work, for the mechanical work, for electrical interconnect work as well. Yeah, and that's it. And the last point, during construction, we're talking about 10 to 12 full-time equivalent persons for the construction. So basically, it's a project that will bring as well some employment here in the county. Now, Geoff is gonna speak a little bit about the technology.
Yeah. So this is our Wagga Box unit in upstate New York, Steuben County. It's a 1,000 SCFM unit, very similar to what will be installed here in Maryland. I can go through the numbers here in the top right corner just to explain a little bit about the equipment and how it works. So number one, H2S removal. There's no laser pointer on that, is there?
Maybe you can try. Yes,
Don't point it at your eye.
Yeah.
Stop one here. All right. So number one, these are our H2S removal vessels. Obviously, landfill gas has a lot of harmful stuff in it, and our job is to remove it and provide the community with clean, renewable natural gas. One of those harmful constituents is H2S. So these vessels here take care of that by they're full of activated carbon. Hydrogen sulfide gets removed in that process. It moves further down the road to number two, which is our PSA vessels. That stands for pressure swing adsorption. This is where the volatile organic compounds get removed from the gas. We introduce pressure inside this vessel with a series of media, and the volatile organic compounds physically adsorb to the media, and that media can get regenerated as pressure swings from bottle to bottle. The VOCs from that process are thermally destroyed here at A in our thermal oxidizer. Very high temperature, thermally destroys stuff that we don't want in our gas. Number three, CO2 separation takes place in this container here. We have a compressor in there with a series of membranes. So gases pass through that series of membranes, which removes about 99% of the carbon dioxide. Step number four, that's our PTSA, so we introduce temperature to the swing adsorption to remove the last bit of carbon dioxide in the gas. It's super crucial that we remove carbon dioxide at this stage because the next stage here, number five, is cryogenic distillation. CO2 can freeze. We don't want it to freeze up that piece of equipment there. So in number five, we call it our cold box. It's nitrogen and oxygen removal. At that point, nitrogen and oxygen and methane remain in the gas stream. So in order to remove nitrogen and oxygen, we introduce liquid nitrogen so much that it cools nitrogen and oxygen to a liquid while methane still remains a gas. At that point, we have 99% pure methane, where we move on to number six, to our sales gas compressor. So depending on the local grid injection pressure requirements, we'll pressurize the gas to meet their standard, inject it over into the grid at number seven. B right here, backup flare. There are times that gas can be off spec, especially during the commissioning and of the unit while we're testing out all of our equipment, making sure everything works. We have gas that we need to get rid of and burn before it's pipeline quality. This flare is it's a backup flare, so it's in theory not being operated. We permit it for 5% of the year. That's how confident we are in our gas production. And C is our electrical room. Obviously, this thing has a lot of electronics in it, PLCs, automated valves, temperature and pressure transducers. Our motors require large variable frequency drives. Anyhow, all of that is taken care of in our electrical room here. This equipment is very compact. Inside these containers, they're basically sea containers where everything is prefabricated. So we have compressors, heat exchangers, all sorts of piping. All of that is prefabricated in a shop and shipped directly on site. We take it off with a crane, we set it on a concrete foundation, that container's good to go. Same with the vessels, everything is prefabricated off-site and brought onto site and anchored to concrete. Our mechanical contractor, which we'll talk about with the community opportunity, their task is to interconnect all of this stuff. So there's a lot of piping that needs to happen, our interconnect piping. And that's where a mechanical contractor can come in, fabricate those spools for us and install. But it's a real slick, it's a slick process, especially with everything being kind of modularized. Makes for a real good looking install. So the construction phases of the project, where we are right now is our due diligence phase. So Karina, the business developer, is working with the county right now doing some feasibility studies, including gas and electrical interconnect. And once an agreement is reached, then WAGA will kick off its engineering studies, typically about 24 weeks to refine the design. We call this a standard, but each project is always a little bit different depending on utility requirements, location, physical location. Then we move on to permitting. Typically, so we have a flare and a thermal oxidizer. Those will require an air permit. I'm not familiar with the permitting in Maryland, but we'll cross that bridge when we do get there. But if there's a modification to a solid waste permit that has to happen, or any kind of environmental, stormwater or wetland delineation, that all gets taken care of quite early on in the process. Fabrication. Fabrication of equipment is around 36 weeks. There's a lot of heavy-duty procurement that WAGA needs to go ahead and move forward with. So that's purchasing equipment, installing equipment inside the containers, getting guarantees from suppliers, making sure everything gets delivered to site on time. Then we begin our civil work. So as you saw in the previous picture, it's essentially one big large square. We'll need a civil contractor to come in, grade everything out, get it to final grade. They'll also be doing the concrete. There's some underground pipes for the landfill gas that connect to the WAGA box. We also produce condensate. So that condensate will have to be routed to our sump and tie into the existing leachate system of the landfill. So that encompasses the civil work. Installation is where our mechanical contractor comes in. So they'll be tasked with offloading equipment, as I mentioned earlier, fabricating all those spool pieces, putting things together that didn't ship fully assembled. Gas interconnect, we start that one nice and early because we all know how utilities work, both gas and electric utilities. It can take a long time to get a project moving, so we like to get that started as soon as possible, so that way the potential metering station that will be installed is ready to take the gas that we inject. And then lastly, of course, there's commissioning, where WAGA personnel will be on site, physically testing the equipment, making sure that the process is run correctly, and that we're injecting the quality of gas that we expect to be. So as Ganel mentioned, it's a community effort with this, with our unit. So we're looking for a lot of tasks need to be done to get this thing up and running. So as I mentioned earlier, grading and concrete work, civil contractor. Usually we get contacts through the landfill, and we do our own vetting process as well. But there's large contract awarded to a civil contractor who will trust with the grading, the concrete work. Then the mechanical contractor will take care of high temperature piping, HDPE piping, potentially fencing, mechanical installation. A lot of this equipment, some of it weighs 60,000 pounds. So we'll need a local trusted crane company with a mechanical contractor who has experience offloading that kind of equipment and anchoring it to the concrete. Electrical installation, we will need an electrical contractor, of course, to install all of the interconnect cabling from our electrical room to all the pieces of equipment that we have inside the unit, as well as make the connections from the utility to us. General contractor, oversight for the project execution. Ganel and I came 3 hours down tonight to give this presentation, so I'd like to come down and physically be on site during construction the entire time, but Sometimes we have to trust a general contractor to do our bidding.
Yeah, so as a summary, how does Waga Energy solution benefit to the Wicomico County and Wicomico landfill? So first you understood that our project is a full component of a circular economy we're developing now around the energy and being able to sell our energy. A few words about the energy we're selling basically. So natural gas price is very low, right? So natural gas price alone wouldn't allow this project to be profitable. But we're selling renewable natural gas. So renewable natural gas is a biofuel, and biofuels are needed in the transportation sector. So there is what we call the Renewable Fuel Standard that has been put in place back in 2005 under the Clean Air Act. And under that Clean Air Act, refiners and oil importers have to incorporate biofuels in any transportation fuel, including gasoline, diesel, natural gas. So we're basically going to sell our renewable natural gas to those companies, and that will allow, to sell at a higher price. To sell now the environmental attribute. So we're selling natural gas price locally at the price of natural gas plus the environmental attribute, which is something that is above that price, to those obligated parties under the RFS, oil importers and refiners. So we're able to deliver pipeline quality. So Jeff went through the technology. Landfill gas is a pretty complex mixture. It's a very complex mixture, especially when there is air intakes. I didn't mention one of the key benefits of the Wagabox technology, the fact that this technology is insensitive to air intakes. If you've been on a landfill, you may have noticed sometimes you have odors, right? Why do you have odors? It's because there may be some leaks of biogas, right? And biogas, because of VOCs, volatile organic compounds, in the biogas, you can smell it. Now, with our technology, we're able to pull a stronger vacuum on the well field. So instead of having biogas leaks, you will have air intakes in the biogas. So now we have to separate air from methane. That's a very tricky separation. This is basically why our technology is very good. We're using cryogenic distillation to separate methane from nitrogen and oxygen. And we can introduce vast amount of airs. What is really important for us is to capture as much energy as possible, because at the end, our revenue is coming from the sale of energy. This kind of landfill gas to RNG project in small landfills like Wicomico County landfill is pretty new in the US. So it took a different approach. First, it took a special technology like the Wagabox technology, and then I would say the product approach, because basically the Wagabox is a standard product that we're duplicating. Jeff mentioned there are some small adaptation to be done on the front end and on the back end for each project, but then all the Wagaboxes are the same. And by duplicating the same product again and again, we're able to drive down our capex and basically make profitable projects on smaller landfills. There are 2,700 landfills in the US. Maybe 70% of those landfills are of low flow. So when we want to address that pollution problem, when we want to recover that energy, it takes this kind of technology, right? And then, so turnkey approach combined with guaranteed performance is I would say, an insurance for the county to receive, the recurring revenue they will perceive from our sale of the renewable natural gas. So thank you for listening. I don't know if there is a Q&A session or not, but
Yeah. Thank
okay.
you very much for that presentation. Great job, Lee.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that's some pretty exciting news. Really exciting technology. Just to put a fine point on the end of it there, how many people know that we currently have a gas to energy situation set up at the landfill? Right. used to be called Ingenco, now it's Archaea, BP. They only want high quality methane. So that's why you ride by the landfill, you smell the odor, because we are getting those rogue emissions going off. The state of Maryland is increasing the regulatory oversight of rogue air emissions coming from landfill. Wagga wants not just a little bit of our gas, they want all of it. That extra flow, that extra vacuum, that's going to make for a better partnership, a better environment, and this is a bright future for the county. So folks, we're going to wrap up here with a couple more slides, and we are going to have a Q&A. When we start with our Q&A, we'll effectively have our whole panel up here. So Wagga, when they get a question, Mr. Sfaby and my team. So again, none of this would be possible without the team that we have at Solid Waste, and we want to make sure that we put a fine point on that. Ms. Jessica, if you don't mind.
These are our solid waste employees, majority of them. They are the heart of the landfill. Without them, we would not be here. We would not have a solid waste division. I would like our employees to please stand and please get a round of applause. All the solid waste employees, please stand.
Can you believe that we run that landfill with those 5 people? We have a lot of folks, people, I'm telling you, a lot of folks and a lot of good people.
Yes, we have a very, very good team, and I really want to say thank you to Adam Corey for coming in, because he has turned the landfill around, and we could have not had done it without him. So thank you. Thank you.
No, it's been an honor, to say the least. All right, so contact information right here. Again, anything you need, give me a call. My cell phone number's right there, 936-0528. Obviously, Jessica Hunter, Supervisor of Accounting, I don't think that title does her justice, frankly. She's effectively like a deputy superintendent. She really does effectively run the show. When I need to go on vacation, which I haven't done yet, she'll take over.
I'm going on vacation, not you.
That's right. And of course, if you want to get in contact with Miss Albero for our recycling operations, her cell phone is there as well. So, folks, with that, we appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I honestly think this was a good effort and a really good way to communicate. We want to continue to do this on a regular basis. And we especially thank PAC 14 for being willing to come out here and put this out on the airwaves so we can have our community that wasn't able to come tonight get engaged with it. Anytime anybody wants to come learn more about the landfill, I'll give you a tour. Councilman Wing, we jumped in the Kubota and went for a ride last night. So anytime you want to come see what we do, I can make an arrangement for you to come, take a look around the place, learn a little bit more about it. Because remember, it's not a
Dump.
It's not a dump. That's right. So Q&A, folks. Anybody got questions, raise your hand, and we'll have our whole panel try to give you the best answer. We got a little bit of time.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're not getting away
Don't
that
be
easy.
shy.
Yes, sir.
I had one question. Earlier in the presentation, you were talking about composting and advancing the composting.
Yep.
Will that in any way compromise what Wagga needs in order to, for the waste product they need to run their operation?
Sure. That is an excellent question. So for anybody that didn't hear that, whether or not removing and diverting food waste, compost, out of the landfill would have a negative impact on Waga's ability to collect gas. The answer, in short, is no, because remember, there's a lot of trash in that landfill that is still yet to produce methane at the rate that we could be if we get into other technologies such as leachate recirculation. We haven't even thought about that yet. Now, that would be kind of hard to do with our old landfill portions, but like when we designed Cell 7 and we designed horizontal expansion, leachate recirculation can pump up that old trash that hasn't been wetted in a long time, for example. Also with the compost, something we're looking into on a secondary note is a anaerobic digester for our compost material. Anaerobic digesters, once you get them moving and that bioreactivity inside that unit, you start really producing some serious gas. So we would even have a purer form of methane that we could lend to our partners at Wagga. So that's on the table too. So yeah, it was a great question. Councilman Wynn.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know about everybody else. Sorry.
My question is, I've put some thought into this because I've known about it for a little bit, but I haven't talked to you about it yet. But my question is with the Wagga gas that we are going to receive and use for fueling homes, is there any restrictions for us to use that as an incentive to incentivize large businesses or corporations or any manufacturing of any kind to come to Wycomico County and open up shop? Is there any way we can use that to incentivize them? That way we can drive more business into our county.
So right now with our due diligence period, we're not only working in-house with WAGA, but we're also working with other partners in the community like Chesapeake, right? We do need to talk about what these benefits could be for the whole community at large, whether it be for heating homes and or for uses of other neighbors that are actually pretty close by to the property that may be able to utilize this. While we're still in this infancy of this due diligence period, we want to make sure that we have a good, solid game plan to move into the next step of the conversations, which is exactly the kind of stuff you're talking about, James. So yeah, for certain, we want to make sure that we get that positive message out there about the benefits of what this gas production process could have beyond the limits of the landfill, obviously, yes.
My other question is we have a franchise agreement coming up. Do we need to get this ironed out with WAGA so when we do our franchise agreement that it's not going to mess up with Chesapeake?
Certainly understood. I'm gonna let Mike Spavey take that question, and because we have been talking to Chesapeake again, but like I say, we got a couple more things in the fire with WAGA we want to get straight.
Thanks, Adam. Councilman Nguyen, it's a partnership in its earliest phase now, but the elements of that partnership are, of course, the landfill, the county, WAGA, and Chesapeake. Chesapeake is where the actual renewable natural gas turns into not just a good thing to do for the environment, but it turns into, a possible pipeline over a 20-year period. Now, for that to work, there's two things that come into play. The first is, how far do we have to go to connect to where we can sell the renewable natural gas to Chesapeake? Right now, it's a pretty good distance. We have X amount of quantity that our landfill emits, or in the case of WAGA's involvement, gets pulled into the WAGA technology. And we looked at connections closest to the landfill, and for probably a third of a year, the local environment could not use all the gas that the landfill will produce. That is a distribution line connection, for instance, the new sheriff's office. If you travel to the nearest transmission line, we'd be going, as of now, all the way out to Route 13, which is 4.5 miles away. So what that does is it complicates the equation for the initial capital investment. How do we connect the landfill source to Chesapeake? Right now, there's a 4.5 mile distance, so it's a substantial, hard investment to connect. There is a bright star in the equation, however. We are working currently with Chesapeake in terms of an easement in and around the railroad tracks on Naylor Mill Road, which brings the whole equation about a mile closer. So that'll significantly decrease that initial investment. But back to your original question, to the degree that we can work with Chesapeake to stimulate interest in natural gas, and by interest, I don't just mean, hey, yeah, I'd rather cook with natural gas than electric. I mean substantial commercial use. They would have to make the distribution lines larger, closer to the source. So that's the kind of thing the kind of discussions we want to have with Chesapeake now. I don't think there's a way, just by what they're asking for in a franchise agreement, but we're looking closely at doing that. And if there's a way we can, not just get whatever fee we think we need out of that agreement, but to incorporate some other thing into it, we're absolutely going to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Rupp.
Just a comment and a couple quick questions. But I say comment, I wanted to thank the county for their help with our efforts on litter, remediation. From staff, Ms. Alvaro, to leadership, you all, to the county councils and the county exec, it's been gratifying. Thanks.
That's great.
Very much. And my quick questions are, number one, what's the estimated time that construction will begin on the WAGA project? Sounds really exciting.
Yep.
And number two, what are other ways that can decrease the stream to the landfill? You're at 52% now, pretty commendable, but we all know, I'm sure it's extremely expensive to do additional land sells.
It is.
And so we're decreasing the flow, would seem to be a positive thing. What are other ways we can?
Sure. And again, I think this goes back to some other very common themes that we're talking about right now with your organization is education and outreach, right? I mean, I don't know. The one that stuck with me the most from my childhood, and I'm 45 years old, if that gives you the right ballpark figure of where these things came out. I remember the kid, it was a cartoon. He was going in there to brush his teeth, and he was leaving the water running. And the fish in the reservoir was like almost getting ready to suffocate because he's getting too much oxygen. And that made me remember to turn off the tap when I was brushing my teeth, right? And now my wife constantly is like, can I please run the water for more than 2 seconds? I'm like, nope, we're on a septic system. I can't have that going on. You know, it once you get it ingrained in your head that you've got the ability to do it a different way and that it makes a benefit for your fellow man, I think that's what it needs to do. Making sure our public understands not only how many locations we have, when they're open. I mean, you know, we've got our regulars that come. I got some folks that come to our convenience center every morning. They're there at 6 a.m. to dump their one bag of trash. Do you really think they need to bring one bag of trash that morning? They just come because they like to, but they know everything about it. If I want to get people that they have a heart for it, they have a passion for ensuring it, just like your volunteers have a passion for roadside litter pickup, I want people to have a passion for diverting their waste stream and changing their practices in the household. One of the things with composting, and it's very interesting because the state of Maryland has just promulgated or is in the process of promulgating regulations on composting requirements. When you think about it, your targets that you could really hit to get people engaged in composting of food waste, for example, because like Jennifer said, and she's right, about 40% of the waste stream by weight is food waste. I mean, the seagulls aren't up there eating plastic. Well, they probably are getting a little bit, but they're eating food waste. So if you can start thinking about it, your hospitals, your schools, your larger facilities that serve food, your food service operations, but getting the family of two with the 2 kids coming home from basketball practice, trying to get pizza, and they're trying to get them settled down for homework in bed, are they going to scrape every last piece of food off that plate before it goes, in the trash with something else? That's a little bit harder to change. So I think education, outreach, and a cultural shift is how we continue to divert waste. At the same time, and it does go hand in hand, we, as our solid waste division is concerned, need to make sure that we have the upgrades to our facility and have our staff being vigilant to make sure that the wastes are going in the proper place. So that's something else we can do in-house. And we have implemented that since I've come on board, is making sure that we're being very visually cognizant about what waste is coming onto the landfill. And if we can take it, that doesn't belong there, we'll take it out. We take it out of the waste stream immediately. We communicate it over the radio. Hey, such and such truck just dumped this. We need to get that out of there. Tires all the time. Refrigerators, air conditioners, yeah. So we get those out of there and we use them elsewhere. We'll sell the tires to a guy that comes and gets them. Refrigerators, same thing. The white goods or what they're called, they're all going to go to a different use later on. We don't want them in the landfill. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Cardboard.
Cardboard.
I see we got 2 new cardboard dumpsters.
Yes, sir.
They have to be flattened now.
Yes, sir.
Do we bundle it and sell it?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And this is one of the big things with our inmate labor. They come in most every day. Our inmates were there again today. And for at least half of the day, that what they're doing is helping our staff sort through that cardboard on a conveyor that's going to a baler. If you ever want to come by and see it, it's actually pretty cool. We've got these bales upon bales of cardboard, and we get enough loaded up until our convenience center supervisor, Mr. Steve Chamberlain, is able to contact the buyers, if you will, on the market and say, hey, we're looking at it and it's time to get a delivery. Then we'll deliver it. They'll come pick it up. We'll get our paper out the door, So the big thing about cardboard, and I get this question often from the public, is I see cardboard being dumped on the landfill. We, as the solid waste division, avoid that at all costs. Sometimes haulers bring in, sometimes your big appliance stores and stuff like that bring in cardboard. The cardboard is so mixed with other trash material, we can't segregate it. The other thing that occurs is when we have an open top container for cardboard recycling, you'll have people come up all morning long and put good broken down cardboard boxes into it. But as soon as somebody comes up and dumps a truck full of trash into it, now we got a problem. So we try to minimize that with the slotted top because it forces you to put your cardboard in. It's a bit of a pain, but we do ask for the public, do the best you can. We want to see you recycle your cardboard. Please bring it to us. And if you're a person that has a ton of cardboard, give us a call. We'll let you back your truck right up to our cardboard area, and we'll take you right there. Don't even worry about it.
It's working because they're filling up.
Oh, my Lord, yes, sir, they are. And we got the cardboard room got full this week. I couldn't believe it. I was like, where'd all this cardboard come from? Amazon, exactly right. That's what it's all about. All the Amazon packages. Thank you, Mr. Bezos.
My house and get the cardboard with you.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you need, we'll come. Bring the baler right with us. Oh, yeah.
What you asked for.
That's right. Yes, sir, Mr. Luffman.
Adam, could you also speak to how plastics similarly get spoiled and how some plastics are recyclable, some aren't,
Yeah, certainly. So not all plastics are recyclable. And, Councilman Hastings talks about this quite frequently, and he's right. Not all plastics are recyclable. And you want to make sure when you are recycling your plastics, you take a very good look at the symbol on the material. And when you're going to bring it, we don't want it commingled with other things. We have our bins separated for a reason. And a lot of times what we'll see is the public will take a large plastic bag and they'll fill it with recyclable materials. Well, then they're doing great. I'm like, good. I'm glad you're doing that. Then they throw that bag of commingled recyclable materials into one slot of our 4-bay container. Well, we got a problem. So, yeah, it's about making sure that you know which materials are recyclable. They're cleaned out. You know what I mean? They don't still have food waste in them. Milk containers are pretty bad for that, especially. And then that we can get them in the proper place. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was just curious why so many of the convenience centers have been removed in the county.
So, to my knowledge, all of our convenience centers, the manned convenience center stations, are still fully intact.
I guess I mean like.
You mean recycling centers?
Yeah.
What you're talking about is 24-hour recycling centers. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, one of them used to be right here in the Civic Center parking lot, for example. Mm-hmm. A couple of the main issues, and I'll just touch the top of this because it does get to be quite a rabbit hole. They get abused often. We have looked at many different ways of seeing how to have them on, video cameras, things of that nature, which we have some of them on. They get misused as far as the material that's placed in them. Oftentimes we find ourselves having to divert our roll-off staff. Our roll-off staff is our internal staff that comes and pulls those bins all over the county all day long. You get one where that roll-off driver has to stop and stay there for an hour and a half to 2 hours to clean the place up. Now we got a problem. Because then while he's doing that, this exponential snowball effect of now you've got open tops of trash and convenience centers that aren't being picked up. Now you got a real problem. So that's kind of the decision-making process on what we did to remove some of those. However, at the same time, we have been in close contact and conversation and engagement with the county council and others in the community about the need to have some other strategically located recycling centers. We're still trying to kind of figure out where the best place would be that would logistically work for our operations, be a convenience for the public in the right area. So it's not off the table. We're still looking for the right place. I guess is the best way to say that. Yes, ma'am.
I guess I've got kind of two separate questions.
Sure.
If that's okay? Okay, and first off, I just want to say again, thank you guys for hosting this event. I think it's amazing. There's a lot of really great information. We're really, really happy to see community collaboration. My husband, myself, my kids, we are so glad to take part in litter cleanup. It's an enriching experience for us as a whole. We hope more people gather. I would like, in my role before, I did a lot of work in social work, and we did a lot of education with young people and children. And I'm reminded very much of the way that some of the programs we utilized before could be applied to litter. We were working with kids who'd experienced sexual or domestic violence. But there was an old analogy that if you see somebody coming down the river, you can pull them out.
Yeah.
But if they keep coming down the river, you need to go back and fix the bridge that they're falling through.
You got it.
And so I do really believe that we're going to get so much further on this issue if we can start, collaborating. And it's not something that we think the county can take on its own, but we would like to collaborate in a way where we can, provide some educational experiences, for the young people. And we need to, get together to work out how to do that. But, some of those ways may be presentations, other ones may be kids can get some extra credit if they come participate in a cleanup. My kids had that at a previous school, and they participated in every one, so it was a really good experience. So that's one question. I'd really like to kind of make contact with anybody in the county that can help with that.
Yep.
And start really kind of working on how can our group work with the young people? How can we partner to provide this education and start fixing that bridge?
Sure.
So on my second hat, we know the collaboration that's needed between communities and Public Works. And, we've hit a little bit of a friction spot with the mining operations at Conley Mill. And so, once again, we know that these things can really be worked out through communication. But we understand that the time has changed for the mining, the timeline for the landfill cover. And, we're okay with that. But we're, as a group, and I'm speaking largely for, many different facets of the community, we're concerned about a certain line that was on a previous plan, I think in November, that said there may be an extension of the limits of disturbance. That's a real sticking point for environmental groups, for community groups, and for other groups. And so I just kind of wanted to, revisit that and say, that's something we're concerned about. We're really glad to see the Potts property acquisition, and we're, fine with the extension of the timeline, but we really want to kind of stand strong on not seeing the furthering of the limits of disturbance.
I think sometimes these conversations don't necessarily happen in a vacuum. But I also want to make sure that we're all singing from the same hymnal, if you will. I think one of the things we really need to do, and frankly, I'm offering this to you individually, is to sit down at the desk and start to actually take a look at what really is there, right? As far as what the possible limits of disturbance are, where those boundary lines are, the safeguards that are in place from the permitting process that allow us to, get the material that we need. I want to make sure I want to make sure everybody's fully aware of what the end game is for those kinds of things, and the ability for us to utilize a really great resource while at the same time being good neighbors.
I think that's
exactly
what we're looking for.
Yeah. So like I say, my cell phone number, I think I've given it to you a few times, but like I say, it's up there. And again, anytime, please give me a call. We'll talk. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So will there be any extra infrastructure needs of Vega for the new cell construction?
Great question. So when we get into cell 7, design and implementation, which is underway right now with, that give or take 30 to 60, the main thing that's going to be the big turning point with WAGA is how we treat our gas well collection system, okay? Making sure that we've actually got that tuned properly, making sure we've got it upgraded to the point that we are making maximum return on recovery of all gases in the landfill. I think from a long-term vision standpoint of engineering and design, when you start to talk about horizontal expansion with a partnership such as WAGA being involved, then you can start about really how to change how we collect gas. There's other ways to do it other than just vertical, standard, almost for lack of a better term, hand-placed wells in a lift of waste. There's definitely more ways to do it.
So I understand for the new horizontal expansion, there will be some extra infrastructure needs of Vega, right?
Sure.
So, which means that there will be some extra financial burden to the county. So will Vega be willing to contribute in some terms?
So it's
What kinds of extra infrastructure needs?
again, really early in the due diligence period, but the partnership with WAGA and especially with the gas rights agreement that we're, in the review process of right now, they effectively manage the gas collections of the landfill. We bury the trash, they get the gas. There's a new hashtag right there, just made it up for you. So, but that's truly the way it is. Right now, we have a very passive relationship with our current gas partner. We would have a very active partnership with this particular setup. And again, that would go into future engineering for a horizontal expansion because we would want to change to the cutting edge way of collecting landfill gas. Right now, literally, you know, two of the gentlemen sitting behind you are holding culvert pipe vertically while a 8-inch diameter perforated line is being laid in with a chain and a crane, and then building our lifts around it, where we may be able to do something completely different with gas collection in the future. But again, it would go into future design. Now, infrastructure, that would effectively go into our design, and it would go into our cost of construction when we construct a new cell, especially horizontal expansion across the road, which will come in some time. But yes, yeah, there's definitely different ways to do it, make it more advanced. We want to get as much gas as we can. Yes, sir.
So especially since the recycling centers, some of them were removed, we receive a lot of questions from our clients regarding single stream recycling. And we always throw it in your guys' hands.
Right.
Is that something that's in the pipeline for?
So it's definitely on the drawing board. I'll put it that way. Definitely on the drawing board. It's a significant challenge. Yeah, it's on the drawing board. You know, we would be silly not to really take all options into consideration to move into the future, right? You know, you can't think about this operation hand to mouth. It's got to be long-term planning. And we need to get our house in order with a lot of things. For example, and I got to go back to that slide, we're equipment poor right now. You know, we need to get to the point where I'm not asking myself, which piece of equipment am I going to put money in to keep it running right now? I want to be able to talk to the gentleman coming with the Caterpillar emblem on his shirt and say, what can you bring me brand new? When we can get to that point, then we can start talking about, you know, from an operational standpoint, how do we improve things like bringing on single stream? Yeah. But again, it's here. There's no doubt.
That makes sense.
We're thinking about it. Yes.
Separate question really regarding the tipping fees increase that were discussed earlier.
Yep.
You know, I appreciate you guys bringing us in discussing this with us. Just let us know. I had to rush here. I barely made it. It's like a few minutes late because I left town of Hebron where they're having fiscal issues. Well, we're going to have fiscal issues due to that increase. They had no idea it was coming.
Right.
It hit. And we actually decided, well, we're going to take a loss on that contract for the remainder of the contract so that you don't have fiscal issues. That's something that I've never heard of a private business doing, but it's what we decided to do the right thing. Just keep us in the loop, because if we know in advance, we can plan for it.
Yeah, certainly. So, yeah, again.
Usually a pass-through cost for us, but because of the way
of course.
This time it wasn't.
And as you know, Andrew, we've been working together and making sure we're moving this ship in the right direction as it pertains to community outreach and making sure that our commercial haulers, which are part of our waste family, understand what's coming. Because at the end of the day, we're here to take it. You got to grab it and bring it, right? The concept of tipping fees is not new though. It's been discussed throughout the county. You know, I don't even want to get into numbers, but we're not at a point now where we're at that quote unquote break even number. And for a long, long time, we're the cheapest game in town when you look at our neighbors. So we want to be the best landfill in the state of Maryland, and we want to be able to do these other wonderful things to support the community. We got to be there with it, you know. So yes, we will keep you apprised of the conversations as we move forward. And of course, we're going into the budget season when those discussions start getting ramped up even with more focus. So we'll keep you posted for sure. Yeah.
I can just add to that, you know, with solid waste from the landfill side being it's a game of scales. You know, I mean,
absolutely,
it's a high cost operation, $1 million pieces of equipment, you know, 30 people running it at a single time. You know that.
We're well aware. And by the way, you might want to get rid of the cat, maybe talk to some other vendors.
There's other vendors out there. There are.
Huh?
There are other vendors out there.
We'd love to help you and collaborate with you as well to help you with, in any way we can.
Like I say.
To cut costs, because we're trying to keep those costs low.
Understood.
For clients.
Yeah.
And we fight every day.
It's tough. I mean, we just came from a situation where we were basically yelled at over something we had nothing to do with, right, with these increases.
Listen, Andrew, we can certainly, you know, I think it'd be well worth my time to reach out to Hebron, you know what I mean? And we can talk about that.
We absorb the cost. It's fine. We just want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
You know.
Understood.
What I'm saying though is that the act of this communication, every time you work a muscle, it gets easier every time you work it.
Without a doubt.
Part of the problem here is there's been long periods of time when we have essentially let ourselves go stale, while the cost and really nature of operations have gone straight through the roof.
Couldn't agree.
Now, it's become a science lab.
That was the first increase since we've been in business. So we acknowledge there has been an increase.
And so there's a little bit of catch up, but what makes that well in the end is because it's an active everyday thing, we'll more regularly talk about it, we'll more regularly review it so that when it becomes a maintenance plan instead of a catch up plan, it's going to be a lot more reasonable to look at.
Yes. Again,
And Andrew, we will set up another haulers meeting with you guys.
every 6 months.
Like
Every
you
6
said,
months.
We really enjoyed that. We had our top 5 haulers come out to the solid waste division. So we will set another, maybe May, Adam and I will coordinate with you all and see what's available.
Yep. Yeah, we want to be doing that every 6 months with the commercial haulers.
Would you consider collaborating with the other counties as well? They have issues with these what do you call it? The recycle centers, and these, because it's always a constant issue with illegal dumping, and maybe finding a way where you're saving money and also giving value back to everybody and locally. But I think the biggest thing is that, and we see it all the time as haulers, there's so much contamination at these convenience.
Without a doubt.
I mean, it's just, you're not really getting value out of it. I mean, it's a good thing for everybody in the community, but I don't think they understand, and that goes with educating people.
Yep.
They don't understand the amount of contamination from trying to keep these convenience centers or these recycle centers going. You're not making any money, you're losing money, and that's a big area where you are. And people don't see that, they just see it's, lack of a better term, it's a feel good.
It is.
Feel good about doing it, but we don't understand that there's a huge value. We do want to help the environment. We're actually creating more, I guess, if you want to say, environmental impact by trying to strain. You're running roll-offs, you're probably putting hundreds of miles a day on each truck, right? In order to pick up these cans, where maybe you could consolidate at the landfill, charge more to your clientele, and streamline it so you're not having such an environmental impact by running those diesel trucks everywhere.
Yeah, it seems like the
So I take it you're picking yours up with electric right now?
Trying to.
Yeah. So, but like I say, it's one of those things. It's hard. It's hard. And it's also hard to change, old habits. So I get it. It's hard to change old habits.
Yeah, it's like, it's just trying to fund, to charge those trucks, right?
Yeah, I get it. The infrastructure behind it's the other thing. And then again, the value added for the environmental benefits and the value added for the reduction of our costs logistically, I 100% agree with you. How do we get there? That's the question, right? So again, on the drawing board, you got to change the whole way we do business in the county when it comes to recyclable materials. So it would be a huge lift. But we do collaborate with other counties, by the way.
I know this is really not a question, but we've been advocating for a dedicated position to litter control. And when we talk about it, we talk about this. I mean, when this bit about these contaminated,
Containers.
bins is just, to me, just so galling, and if you had, it could be part of this position. Now, this person can't stand out there all the time, but maybe could work with volunteer groups, and volunteer groups could say, "Oh, sir, please don't put that in there," et cetera. So
you're right. So our manned facilities, the recycling centers are the ones that get abused that are open 24 hours a day, because somebody can pull up there after 6 o'clock and do whatever they want to do, and we got to get lucky to catch them. The manned facilities, where they're open only from the hours of operation of 8 to 5, and then the gate's locked, that's a different story. Because there is somebody that's paid by the county there all day long saying, that doesn't go there, that doesn't go there. It's tough. So, but I think what you just mentioned, Bruce, about having another arm of this, process of how we collaborate with your organization would be, again, outreach and education. You're not going to stop the bad apples that just are doing it because they don't care, but you can at least get people that are wanting to do right to do it the right way. So I do agree with that. Yes, sir. All right. Anybody else?
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I urge anybody who has not been there, there's probably nobody in this room, to go to the landfill and get a tour. I've had a tour. I've had a tour with you.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it is an amazing operation. It is heavy-duty industrial operation. I mean, and so that part is understanding, but also the whole issue of we're sort of drowning in trash.
Yeah.
And you see the scale of it when you go there, and so I just.
As a society,
Yeah.
we've become a nation of consumers that's packaged.
Yep.
Everything's packaged. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we could go back to just wrapping everything up. Now, I don't know about cloth diapers to anybody who has kids that are young, but other than that, start wrapping your lunch up in one, kind of like they did the Civil War. I don't know, get tack biscuits and, I mean, yeah, that's right. But you're right, man. You own these kits that you carried everything in, right? My grandfather went to work every day at the nylon plant in Seaford and had a metal thermos and a metal lunchbox. And today, I probably, I had a bag this daggone big of trash that when my lunch came in. I didn't go out for lunch today. I didn't say that out loud. Sorry, honey. But yeah, so folks, like I say, we're working on these things, and this is the kind of talk we need to have together as a community. Because again, like Matt said earlier this evening, we're all in this together because, we're taking everybody's trash. So we need to make sure we're continuing to stay in communication with each other, working together. So I'm really excited about this. I think this is great, and I want to continue to do it on a regular basis. If we can have an audience, we're going to be there. So we're also going to make sure that our social media presence gets a little bit more. So we would ask you to like and comment, and let's grow that a little bit because there's a lot of folks out there on Facebook that's how they get their information. To want to make sure that we're building that page presence. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
One other thing, and I don't recall it being mentioned, but there's actually a scale model of the Waga plant.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There you go.
Have a look at that. It gives you an idea of the orientation of how things are set up. We just approached the phase during our due diligence where we explored the location of where that would be, and it is on the existing footprint of the landfill. So check it out, let you know what it looks like.
Yeah. And we appreciate everybody for coming. We're super excited for our new Director of Public Works to get started, hitting the ground running. And thank you all for coming so much. Anytime, give us a call and stop on by. We're there every day.
Open bar next time?
Yeah, sure, Bruce. Yeah.